Idly ho there, neighbors. Hope everyone's well, and life is treating you well. I am just recording a bit of an update. I did say that I would be talking more about the whole trying to be a professional game writer, game designer, vlog experience as well. So let me talk about what I've been doing recently. I've been posting some vlog content around a post-apocalyptic fantasy setting. I had entertained the notion of keeping it somewhat game neutral, or perhaps making content for different games within the setting. For instance, doing some Fantasy Age stuff to go along with the D&D stuff, the classic stuff. Here's the thing. When I wrote some Fantasy Age content related to Critical Role and all that, there was like no traffic. Nobody was interested. And, you know, that is discouraging, I guess. But it does mean that I'm more likely to focus down on D&D content, because people weren't interested in when I started to branch out a bit, I guess. I may try it with some other systems and see if I can have more luck later, but man, that was discouraging, because I like Fantasy Age. I'm enthusiastic about it, but if nobody was going to read the content, then putting it up seemed, I don't know, like I'm wasting people's time. If nobody's interested, why am I putting the work in? And maybe that's just me being bitter. I don't know. Anyway, I've been doing this post-apocalyptic setting, which I really need a better name for, called God Thrones, where the concept is a very Jack Kirby-esque kind of thing, where some point in our future, 200 years from now, these sort of space gods show up. Giant titanic beings that throw the world in an upheaval. They sort of break reality around them. They sort of introduce magic into the world. Their effect taints the land around them and changes the beings around them. Elves would evolve from really humans that were affected by the presence of one of these sort of space god beings. It was an interesting experiment. I enjoyed writing the setting material. Today I posted up, or rather late last night, early this morning, depending on how you want to read it, I posted up a post-apocalyptic elves concept, Blight Elves. And that was an interesting experience to write. It's an idea that had been bouncing around in the back of my head for a while. The notion is elves are super tied to the land. Well, what happens when the land itself is blighted by something? In this case, nuclear war, meltdowns of nuclear reactors. The fall of civilization brings with it a lot of problems. For instance, nuclear reactors actually aren't designed to operate very long without monitoring and people being there to prevent things from going wrong. And in a massive apocalyptic thing, some of them are going to go. Some are going to cook off, and you're going to end up with a Chernobyl-like thing. Just sitting there festering for thousands of years. Well, imagine if you're an elf tied to the land that happens on. That's the idea, right? So, in making that, writing actual race stats is not actually that hard. There's plenty of guidance for that in looking at the various races that have already been written and sort of figuring what the range of what you can and can't do is. Okay, fine. What is more interesting and challenging is actually putting them into stat blocks so that you can, plug them into a game as bad guys. Because I did the PC stats, and I was like, well, that's not enough. I need to do something more here. I did look on Twitter. Dan Dillon suggested actually doing the DMG's thing where on page 282 in the Dungeon Master's Guide, it gives a list of traits that are common for a particular race so that you can build whatever you need. Just make sure it has these traits on there. And so I did a definition list for that. And then to actually set up the traits, I use as a model the Drow and Drow Mage for two of the monster blocks. And the third one I did as a purely sort of, this is me sort of riffing on the initial one, the low-level version, the level 1 version. I made it a level 3, and because these guys are very barbaric and anger-driven, I decided to give them some traits that would be more in common with a berserker. So I gave them Reckless, and that trait, so that, to demonstrate that, and they have, proficiency in Greatsword, which, I know that an elf with a greatsword is not the first thing you think of, but it worked here. But yeah, that's how I put it together. And then I put it onto my WordPress. And one of the things that WordPress does very well is, presenting text. But when you're trying to format it to fit a particular text block setup, they don't actually have a lot of tools for that. I may end up trying to write some sort of custom script as a plugin for WordPress for putting together stat blocks so that they look like stat blocks from the monster manual. But that is going to be a lot of work if I do that. So it may be a time when I have a week or so off, I may do that. But it's not going to be anytime soon. Anyways, go take a look and see what I did there. And tell me what you think. Another big thing that I'm looking at is trying to put together pitches. And this is always hard for me. Putting together a pitch for a product and sending it to a publisher, even one I've worked for before, is super hard. It's like selling yourself, and I'm bad at it. But it needs to be done, or I'm not going to find paying work. So, it's a thing to look at. Anyway, that's me sort of updating my journey towards publishing and writing gaming products. I hope it's helpful to you. If it's not, let me know. If it is, let me know. If you would like me to shave my head, you can let me know. I'm probably not going to do it, but you should let me know. Subscribe, like, share with all the people, and I will talk to you later. Got stuff to do.